Good morning. So, got my Bible. It's right here. I'm still chewing on what I was just reading. It's funny. I was been reading lots of I read, right? And it's funny how I'm reading Spurgeon and I'm reading uh, the Doctor, Lloyd Jones, and all these other authors. And it's funny because they all talk about how they themselves always enjoyed reading the Puritans. So I finally bit the bullet and decided, well, I better try reading the Puritans myself. If it seems to work for them, maybe it'll work for me. And they always spoke about how the Puritans were so eloquent. And yeah, it's just funny because I just hear all these guys make these comments. Well, and I decided to pick up myself my own Puritan reading, and holy smokes, like this stuff's good. This is really good, and it's just wrapping my brain around stuff. I'm only in the second chapter. I've been just kind of chewing slowly on the Bruised reed. I made mention of it the other day, and I was just reading in the second chapter how Christ will not break the bruised reed. And I'll tell you what, it's just really good stuff. And I don't know. I don't know if I want to spend an entire morning going into it, but he just talks about how there has to be a bruising to take place. The first chapter, in fact, mentions that God uses the bruising, he uses trials, he uses pain often to teach us lessons and to get us where we need to be. But he mentions that a physician will destroy their patient, nor will a surgeon, dismember the thing he's working on, or the mother cast away the sick child, showing that even amongst us humans, there's that knowledge of sometimes there needs to be a little bit of pain to get the job done, but we're never going to just cast off what we're working on. And then I highlighted this. And shall there be more mercy in the stream than the spring? And I said, I like the way that sounds. Shall there be more mercy in the stream than the spring itself from where the stream comes from? And it's that idea that, we see mercy kind of built into humans. Although there's a lot of sinfulness built into us, at the same time, there is something, a natural instinct when you see something weak that you want to bind it up. You want to help it. Oh, yes, there are, little boys who will burn ants with their magnifying glass and this and that. But yet somehow people have a natural instinct to see something and want to see it be made better, to see it be made whole. And if we are simply made in his image, then how much more in the spring shall there be mercy as opposed to the stream itself? And he starts describing Christ. He came to die as a priest for his enemies. He shed tears for those who shed his blood, and just talking about all that he did. And just all the verses, he is the Prince of Peace, Isaiah 9:6. The mediator of 1 Timothy 2:5. That he was tempted in all things so that he could succor them who were tempted, Hebrews 2:18. And he's just painting this beautiful picture. And then just reminding us, then what should we learn from all of this? But to come boldly to the throne of grace in all our grievances. Shall our sins discourage us when he appears there only for sinners? Are you bruised? Be of good comfort, he calls you. Conceal not your wounds. Open all before him and take not Satan's counsel. Go to Christ. Although trembling, as the poor woman who said, if I may but touch his garment, we shall be healed and have a gracious answer. Go boldly to God in our flesh. He is flesh of our flesh and bone of our bone for this reason, that we might go boldly to him. Never fear to go to God, since we have such a mediator with him, who is not only our friend, but our brother and husband. And he just goes on. It's good. But one thing he continues to make the point of, and I want to see if I can maybe pick it up just one more time, If Christ be so merciful as not to break me, I will not break myself by despair, nor yield myself over to the roaring lion, Satan, to break me into pieces. It's got me thinking about something that maybe I'm coming full circle. Quite often there's the maybe cliche saying, right? God will never give you more than you can handle. And I myself, among with many others, have quite often rebuked that and just said, actually, God will often break you and God will often take you down and he will intend to break you of your will and break you of yourself. So then it got me thinking this morning about what does it really mean, than you can handle? Now, that's not a Bible verse, so it's not like we're contemplating scripture that has a definitive answer, right? Bible verses have one meaning. Now, there can be extra meanings that we get from the Bible, right? There can be the primary meaning and then other applications that are beneficial, but they never change the primary meaning. And this is like hermeneutics 101. Hermeneutics is the science of interpreting the Bible, right? And the idea is that a text can never mean what was not the original intended meaning of the author to his audience. So when Paul wrote something to the Ephesians, it will forever mean what Paul was trying to say to the Ephesians. That's just a little, there's your head knowledge to add in today. But because this is not a Bible verse, we don't have to worry so much about what the right meaning is. It can be more subjective. God will never give you more than you can handle. Well, God may want to break you if you're self-willed, rebellious. Look at the prodigal son. Do you not think it was God's will for him to run out of money, to become poor and desperate, to be eating amongst the swine before coming to his senses and coming home? That's absolutely what God wanted. Now, what was that young man thinking as he ate among the swine? Something that, again, as a Gentile like you and me, I don't think we can fathom the level of disgust there is for a Jew to be eating among the swine. An animal that couldn't even be in Jewish territory, and now you're eating with it. So, did that young man think, this is more than I can bear, therefore I'll go back to my father? Did God give him more than he could handle? And I think this is where that definition of what is more than you can handle. If you think it's more than you can bear in your flesh, well, then God will many times and quite often give you more than you can handle, because God does not want you to do things in your flesh and of your own strength. God desires for you to be dependent upon him. So in that case, God will often give you more than you can handle. I bring my book back up because there was a highlight, the second one, that I just thought was so beautiful. He puts an instinct into the weakest things to rely upon something stronger than themselves for support. The vine stays itself upon the elm, and the weakest creatures often have the strongest shelters. The idea is that God will create situations in your life in order for you to recognize your weakness and even embrace your weakness. As Paul says, right, in the second letter to the Corinthians, when I am weak, then I am strong. Because the vine depends upon the elm. It depends upon that thing that it must climb and cling to in order to stand. And I think God will take us to a place where we must cling to him in order to stand. But that's God's intent. He will bruise the reed so that he might bind it. And he will smother the flax to where it is simply smoldering so that he might breathe upon it. That's the idea. God will never break you the way that Satan wants to break you. And this is where all of us, quite often, we face a fork in the road. Because God may take you down with the intent of building you back up again. But Satan quite often will see when you are down, and he will have a different plan. He will beat you while you are down. He will discourage you and make you believe you are disqualified when you are down. That is the turning point. Will God ever give you more than you can handle? Well, it depends on how you define handle. If you mean, will God ever break you to the point where you realize I can't do this on my own? Absolutely. But will God ever take you to a place where you believe you are disqualified? No. That's what the accuser does. Devil, diablos, in the Greek, it's the word to accuse. It's literally the accuser. They are accusers. That's what the word devils means, actually. They accuse you of things. Would God ever take someone to the place of suicide? No. That is a brokenness that is straight from hell and the enemy. That is a brokenness that God does not create. And so, the more we learn to cling to Christ as the vine clings to the elm, the more we'll see how God will break and bruise the reed, but he has come to bind up the brokenhearted. That's what God does. He will break us of our self-will. He'll break us of our pride. He'll break us of our dependency upon ourselves, but he'll never leave us that way. He's doing it for a purpose. And if you are facing trials and tough situations, well, those quite often are gifts of God to help us become dependent upon him. But it's in those very seasons where Satan often sees an open door to break us to a different level and to have a different conclusion. And so, a bruised reed he will not break. If you guys don't have the, $8 to pick up a used copy of the Bruised Reed off eBay, then I would advise you just to hop on to Google, and look up the Bruised Reed, Richard Sibbes, Sibbes, PDF. It's all free. This stuff's 500 years old almost, right? So it's all free, or I guess it's only 400 years old. Sorry. Yeah, it's about 400 years old. So there's no copyrights on this stuff. So there's like tons of PDFs for free on the internet. You can just download and read it at your leisure. One of these days, years ago, I had a book resource page on our church website and app. So one of these days, I'll get that back so we can have all the free books you guys could ever want on the church app. Quick and easy to get to. We didn't get to Genesis today, but that's okay. God bless you guys. And seek the Lord. Remember, if you, in your own mother, saw the mercies of the stream, how much more in the spring, the source of all mercy? And what do we do with this other than boldly come before the throne of grace? Have an amazing day, guys.